Hello everyone, this is Justin with Play With Reason, and I am here to talk about everything from mathematics to science to chemistry and all those kind of things, and hopefully bring a unique perspective that helps make this world a better place. So, let's dive in. Today, want to talk about irrational numbers. Let me explain. So irrational numbers are simply a number that we begin to think about the decimal and where it ends, and it never ever stops. Probably the fastest way to explain it, let me see if I can grab myself a little whiteboard here, is if I take a zombie, brains, and here is you. Now, you gotta be careful because this zombie can cover half the distance in only 1 second. So here is a zombie at 0, here are you at 100 meters, and this zombie can cover that distance, half the distance in that 1 second. So 1 second later, the zombie is at 50. Now here's this neat thing, is that you over here, you actually took a nap, because you know the rule for the zombie is that he can only cover half the distance. What do I mean? So now he's at 50 to 100, what's half the distance there? 75, okay? What's half the distance of that? 25, half the distance of that is 12.5. So now I'm at 87.5. I hope my math is right here. You're still at 100 taking a nap. So, man, now I've got to do a little bit, grab my calculator here. Yada, 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 yakety smackety. So 100 minus 87.5 is equal to 12.5. Remember, you're able to cover half of 12.5, so I'm going to divide that in half and get 6.25. So now 6.25, I'll just make sure I check my numbers here, add it into 87.5. Now the zombie has made it to 93.75. You're still taking a nap. Remember, you're still taking a nap. So 93.75. They're going to cover half the zombie's going to cover half the distance between you and 100. So obviously subtract that 100, and the distance is now 6.25. Oh my gosh, this zombie is so close. So we'll divide that in half, and we'll get 3.125. So now, oh my gosh, 3.125 plus 93.75. The zombie is now at 96.875. Wait a minute, they'll never ever catch you. They'll never get to you. Now, it's interesting because we get super exactitude whenever we use all of these decimal points. However, Pythagoreans did not believe that there were such things as irrational numbers. To them, it didn't make any sense. They preferred things to be clean and precise and be able to place inside of a fraction. So they would have never looked at this and been like, oh yeah, pi is 3.1416, etc., etc. If they couldn't put it into a fraction, it didn't count. Let me give you an example. 3 1/7. So I can look at a piece of pie, it's got 7 pieces on it. I know it, there. I'm looking at one piece. So Pythagoreans aren't saying that there's a perfect system. What they are saying is that they were looking for a perfect fraction. This number still continues on and on and on, but they can look at a piece of pie and say, I now know where the edge of that pie is. So for them, pi was 3.1428. Now, again, they could keep going, 5, 7, etc., etc. But it didn't really matter because they wanted to round this out using something that was clean and precise. Okay, let me take a jump, because what am I talking about here? What am I doing? Here's my argument. Every single person out there is just a combination and an amalgamation of their culture, their background, their childhood, what their parents poured into them, environment, nature, nurture, the whole bit. And so we are all incredibly unique, and we are all, I would call, irrational. I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean that there's no way that you can put us into a clean fraction, right? So there is actually a way to think about this mathematically, and I want to see if I can take a mathematical approach and apply it to sociology as a way for us to be I don't know, make this world a better place if we can. Okay, so I know what pi is. Pi is 3.14159, okay? So, and it keeps going on and on and on. The Pythagoreans they get it really wrong. And in fact, you can even flash back, and some people argue the Babylonians used just the number 3, right? They said the diameter of a circle and its ratio to the circumference, right, is actually just 3. And so they really tried to narrow it down, something simple and something easy and something quick, and they ended up with totally an odd number. These guys, the Pythagoreans, also thought to themselves, can I break it down into a nice, even, pretty looking fraction? And that also, right, it also broke it because they were also off. Again, my argument is that people are irrational. Let me give you an example. So my brother and I, born in the same household, raised by the same parents. We actually even have a birthday that's really close, same horoscope, but like our birthday is only 7 days apart. But we are night and day different. Why is that, right? Anyone looking on the outside looking in would say, oh, I could definitely see you guys, very, very similar. Same race, same social demographic, all that good stuff. You even act the same. You have the same mannerisms, whatnot. But then again, my argument is, put us together and we look at these things from these micro details. We try to break it out in the irrational piece, and we know that we are night and day different when we compare it at this micro level. So at some point, we need to understand people and be able to call it in some way that we can work and connect with other people. So the mathematical approach is this. It is called approximation. I'll show you what I mean. So mathematicians use this thing called continuing fractions. And what that does is it allows you to approximate. So for pi, for example, they say pi is equal to 3 plus 1/7. Okay, that's not exactly right, but what they can do is they can take 3 plus 1/7 and they can add pi and the whole calculation back into the denominator. I don't want to overcomplicate it, but just know this. Every time that they do another approximation, another continued fraction, they get closer and closer to the actual number of pi. Now, it is irrational, so they'll never actually end there, but they get closer and closer. An example that I have comes from the math faculty at Illinois, and it says, for example, 3, okay? Now, they have 3, and then the 7th, they have 3.1428. That's our Pythagorean example from earlier. So they're pretty close, but still off. If they go another layer, they get 3.1415, and that's really, really close. So I can keep going, but because I have looked at 2 layers of an individual, 2 layers of an approximation, 2 layers of an irrational number, because I've looked at multiple layers, at least 2, I'm getting close to representing the actual person, okay? All right, bear in mind that the person themselves will always be irrational because there's no way that we could ever put baby in a box. So I can keep going. Okay, they go another layer, 3.141592. Oh my gosh. And so, again, I won't draw this out, but the more they keep going, the closer it gets. It's turtles all the way down, baby. So anything that mathematicians do is that they end up saying, man, okay, let's approximate this thing using compounding fractions, and at some point we're going to call it. And I have found, kind of in my experience with playing with fun numbers like pi or phi, phi. I studied Greek in college. It's actually pronounced P and phi. Okay, pi and phi. By using those, if you get down to about the 4th level of compounding fractions, you end up with a number that's really close. It's really close, hence approximating, right, to the irrational number. All right, what is the takeaway? What can we think about this? So, my challenge is this. We live in this piece of time where it's just so easy to generalize somebody, to see them for their race or their religion or their political beliefs. Let me challenge you and just say that is one layer, okay? That is one layer. You are taking this individual, which is completely unique, right? And you are saying, based on that first approximation, okay, cool, I've got good guesswork. But remember from our earlier points, The Babylonians were using 3 instead of 3.14. Their circles were all wonka-do, right? And the Pythagoreans, in their goal to have beautiful and delicate fractions, were off as well, right? They're off by like an entire tenth of a point. So if you only look at one layer, or if you try to fit something into a box, even as you get to the second layer of approximations, you're going to miss. I challenge you the same way that the parents challenge their kid. When you meet somebody and you're working with somebody or talking to somebody, try to get to know at least 3 things about them. And if you're going to be really mathematical about it, try to get to 4 layers. Try to unpack 4 layers, because what you're going to do is you're going to get pretty close to the rational approximation of what makes that individual. I'm not saying you're going to be able to make a judgment call, and I don't want you to make a judgment call. I'm not saying you're going to fully understand the person, because that's bull honky. All I'm trying to say is this. Somebody has a political difference of opinion than you, somebody has a different race or different religion. Get to know 4 layers, and so that you can begin to understand that person, right? And understand them close to who they truly are. Okay, man, I've taken you from zombies into the pi and the Babylonians and Pythagoreans. We've talked about irrational numbers, and we've talked about the challenge out there, right? And using the mathematical idea of compound or continuing fractions in order to do approximations. I hope that you can take this stuff. I hope it's been interesting, and go out, make this world a better place. And that is some real inspired learning. Have fun playing with reason, everybody, and I'll see you next time.